The doors of Courtroom 304 hadn't even opened yet when Keith leaned back in his chair, laughing just loud enough for his wife to hear. "Grace, even your lawyer abandoned you," he whispered, tapping the empty seat beside her. "You should have stayed quiet like you always do." Grace didn't answer. Her hands trembled, but her eyes didn't move from the clock above the judge's bench, counting down the last seconds before her world collapsed. The bailiff called the room to order. Keith smirked, certain victory was already his. Then the judge asked, "Mrs. Simmons, are you truly appearing alone today?" Grace swallowed hard. "She's coming," she said, voice breaking. Keith chuckled. "Sure she is." But the moment those heavy wooden doors slammed open behind them, every person in that courtroom turned. And Keith's smile died first. Because the woman walking in wasn't just a lawyer. She was Catherine Bennett, the iron gavel of Washington, D.C., a legend who had crushed CEOs, senators, and billion-dollar corporations in court for 3 decades, and she was Grace's mother. If this moment hit you, like and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more stories that stay with you. The moment Catherine Bennett stepped into Courtroom 304, the room shifted as if someone had thrown open a window in the middle of a storm. She didn't pause. Her heels struck the floor in a steady rhythm that drowned out the whispers rising behind her. Grace hadn't dared to look back until now, but when she finally did, her breath caught. Her mother didn't look angry. She looked ready for war. Keith's chair screeched as he shot to his feet. "Who the hell is she?" he muttered, eyes darting between Grace and the approaching woman. Catherine placed her briefcase on the defense table with a precision that made everyone flinch. She didn't sit. Instead, she removed her glasses, leveled her stare at Keith and said, "I believe you were laughing a moment ago. Don't let me interrupt." Grace felt something break loose inside her. Fear, relief, maybe both, but she kept her eyes on her mother's steady frame. It had been years since they'd spoken, yet here she was, walking straight into the fire Grace thought she'd have to face alone. Judge Henderson cleared his throat. "Counselor, please identify yourself for the record." "Catherine Bennett, Senior Managing Partner at Bennett Crown & Sterling," she said calmly. "I am representing the defendant, Grace Simmons." The judge blinked. Garrison Ford, Keith's attorney, paled. And Keith, who had spent the last week smirking through every motion, suddenly looked like a man learning the ground beneath him wasn't ground at all. Catherine finally sat beside her daughter. "Grace," she murmured, low enough for only her to hear. "I'm here. Let's proceed." The judge nodded. "Very well. Mr. Ford, you may begin." But Catherine stood again before Garrison could lift a single sheet of paper. "Your Honor, before opposing counsel begins, there are urgent matters the court must address. Specifically, the fraudulent financial disclosures submitted by Mr. Simmons." Keith jerked upright. "That's a lie." "It is evidence," Catherine interrupted, sliding a stack of documents toward the clerk. "And there's more. Much more." Grace watched the confidence drain from Keith's face with every page the judge turned. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. For the first time in years, she felt safe enough to witness the truth unfold. Catherine stepped toward the witness stand. "Mr. Simmons, you will answer these questions with the same arrogance you displayed when you assumed my daughter had no attorney. Please take the stand." Keith looked at Garrison, desperate. "Do something." Garrison lifted his hands helplessly. "I can't stop a hostile witness call." "You're useless," Keith hissed. "And you paid for that uselessness," Catherine said. "Please sit." Keith trudged to the stand, and the bailiff swore him in. His jaw tightened, sweat blooming across his forehead as Catherine approached. "Mr. Simmons," she began, voice calm, "how long have you been funneling marital assets into Apex Ventures?" I don't know what you're talking about." Catherine clicked a button on her remote. A bank record from Cyprus flashed onto the courtroom monitor. "Really?" she said. "Because this transaction from your shell company in the Cayman Islands suggests otherwise." Whispers erupted in the gallery. "That money was company funds." Keith sputtered. "Interesting," Catherine replied. Funny how company funds end up buying Miami condos and Tiffany bracelets. Grace's breath caught. She knew about the betrayal, but hearing it laid bare under fluorescent courtroom lights cut deeper than she expected. Yet she didn't collapse this time. She stood straighter. Keith's voice cracked. That condo was an investment. For who? Catherine asked. Your wife. Or the girlfriend you moved into it? A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. The judge's voice thundered. Mr. Simmons, did you misuse marital assets to support an extramarital relationship? Keith stayed silent, eyes locked on the tabletop. Catherine pressed. Answer the question. I don't know, he whispered. You don't know. Catherine's tone sharpened. Shall we ask Sasha Miller? The doors opened again and Sasha entered, shoulders trembling, eyes avoiding Keith's. She took the stand with tears she refused to wipe away. He told me he was going to destroy Grace in court, Sasha said. He said it would be fun to watch her fall apart. Grace exhaled sharply, almost choking on the sound. Her mother's hand rested on her arm, not to comfort, but to remind her she wasn't alone. Keith lunged forward. She's lying. Sit down, the judge snapped. One more outburst and you'll be in contempt. Sasha's voice steadied. He bragged about hiding $24 million. He said no court would ever find it. The judge dropped his pen. 24 million. Catherine placed her hands behind her back. Your Honor, we have traced every penny. The wave of tension in the room shifted into something else. Catherine continued. Mr. Simmons forged signatures, hid accounts, falsified documents, and attempted to weaponize this courtroom against a woman he vowed to care for. She paused, letting the silence stretch. And he thought no one would ever stand up for her. Keith's voice thinned. Grace, please. Grace finally lifted her chin. You didn't want a wife. You wanted someone you could break. Catherine nodded. Your Honor, we request immediate freezing of all assets, exclusive occupancy for my client, and referral for criminal charges. Before the judge could respond, a man's voice cut through the air from the back of the courtroom. I object. Everyone turned. A tall man in a charcoal coat strode forward. William Bennett, Grace's estranged father. His presence drew an entirely new kind of silence. He held up a document. Keith owes me $2 million. The penthouse was collateral. That property belongs to me. Grace felt the floor tilt beneath her. Another blow. Another betrayal. Another man claiming ownership over her life. But Catherine didn't so much as blink. She took the paper from William's hand, scanned it, and clicked her tongue softly. Forged. Keith forged my daughter's signature. William stiffened. That can't be. It can, Catherine said. And it is. Which means your contract is void, and your attempt to seize the property is illegal. The judge's eyebrows shot up again. Is this true, Mr. Simmons? Keith sagged in his chair. He didn't answer. That's what I thought, the judge muttered. William stumbled back, speechless. Catherine stepped in front of Grace, not shielding her but anchoring her. You made many mistakes, William. But today you will walk away. William looked at his daughter, regret flickering across his features. Grace, I'm sorry. She nodded once, not out of forgiveness but closure. The judge lifted his gavel. This court hereby awards full control of all identified assets to Mrs. Simmons pending final division. Mr. Simmons will face criminal referral for fraud, perjury, and financial misconduct. His gaze darkened. Bailiff, take him. Keith bolted upright. No. Wait. Grace, please, Grace. But the bailiff's hand closed around his arm, dragging him backward as his expensive suit wrinkled and bunched. His polished shoes scraped helplessly against the floor. For a moment, Grace simply watched. Not with gloating, not with cruelty, but with the calm of someone finally released from a nightmare. She let out a quiet breath. It's over. Catherine placed a hand on her daughter's back. No, she said gently. It's beginning. The courtroom emptied slowly, voices echoing like fading thunder. The world outside felt different, lighter, sharper, full of air Grace hadn't breathed in years. But the true ending came months later. Grace's art exhibition opened to a packed gallery in Chelsea. Her paintings glowed under warm lights, each stroke carrying the weight of everything she'd survived. The centerpiece, the gavel, drew a small crowd. Strangers admired the fierce figure emerging from chains, radiating defiance. Catherine watched from across the room, pride softening her usually razor-sharp expression. Grace approached her. Would you have come if I hadn't called you that day? Catherine considered it. Yes, I would have come the moment you needed me. Beep. I'm just sorry it took you so long to ask. Grace smiled. Not the small, careful smile she used to wear, but one full of life. Across the gallery, Toby rushed over with a tablet. Grace, your final settlement just cleared. Everything Keith hid. It's yours now. Grace stared at the numbers glowing on the screen. Not because of the money but because of what it represented. Freedom. Catherine clinked her glass lightly against her daughter's. To new beginnings. Grace lifted her gaze toward the window, where the city lights shimmered like a promise. In a prison several miles away, Keith Simmons sat alone in his cell. No suits, no luxury, no smirk. Only the echo of the courtroom where the woman he underestimated had watched justice catch up to him at last. And that was the cost of cruelty. You don't see the fall coming until it's too late. Weeks after the courtroom fell silent, Grace found herself walking through her studio late one evening, the city humming softly beyond the windows. Fresh canvases lined the walls, colors she once feared to use now glowing boldly under warm lights. She paused in front of her newest piece, not because it was finished, but because she finally understood why she'd started it at all. It wasn't about Keith, or the years she'd spent doubting herself. It was about the moment she realized the truth hadn't saved her. She had saved herself by choosing to face it. Catherine stepped inside quietly, watching her daughter with a look that held neither regret nor apology, only pride earned on both sides. You're different now, she said. Grace nodded. No, she replied softly. I'm finally myself. Outside, snowflakes drifted past the window, catching the light like tiny sparks. Quiet reminders that even the smallest shift can change an entire season. And for the first time in years, Grace felt ready for whatever came next. Not because she was protected, but because she was whole. If this story touched you, please like, share, and help Canada's Heartfelt Tales grow by subscribing. Your support means the world to us.